If you ever met Kola, you would think Christmas was his personal enemy. Not because he hated laughter. Not because he disliked family time. And definitely not because he didn't love his wife or children. But because every single Christmas, his wife turned into a completely different person. A woman driven by comparison. By pressure. By the fear of being laughed at. And each year, as December crept closer, Kola's blood pressure rose with the calendar, quietly threatening the fragile peace of his home. This is not just a Christmas story. It's a story about pride, pressure, silent sacrifice. And the kind of decisions that follow a family long after the decorations come down. Welcome to Tales by Lymarh. Please like, share and subscribe. Kola was a calm man. The kind of man who spoke softly even when life shouted at him. A gentle government worker who left home before sunrise and returned after dark, carrying exhaustion on his shoulders and responsibility in his heart. His salary had a strange habit. It arrived late. Left early. And never stayed long enough to breathe. Still, Kola never complained. He believed that as long as his family had food, shelter, and peace, things would eventually work out. But there was one thing Kola feared more than unpaid bills. December. Because to his wife, Evelyn, Christmas was not just a holiday. It was a competition. A full-blown beauty contest where every woman in the village was a judge. Evelyn had one rule, and she repeated it like a commandment. We must never go to the village looking poor. They had 2 children. School fees waiting in January. Bills piling quietly. Needs that didn't shout, but mattered. Yet Evelyn's focus was fixed on one thing only. Appearance. The irony was hard to ignore. Evelyn didn't have a job. Not a shop. Not a POS kiosk. Not online sales. Nothing. She was a full housewife, which Kola respected, but instead of thinking about how to support the family, she spent her days applying makeup, scrolling through social media, and forwarding videos of luxury handbags to her husband. Baby, I want this. Christmas is coming. Don't fall my hand this year. Kola would stare at his phone, tired eyes blinking slowly. And sometimes, in the quiet corners of his mind, a painful thought crossed his heart. Did I mistakenly marry someone who wants a soft life, but won't lift a finger? He never said it aloud. Kola wanted peace. And silence had become his survival tool. Last Christmas came with a humiliation Evelyn never forgot. They arrived in the village quietly. No convoy. No loud music. No celebration. Just a yellow, shaking tricycle, coughing and rattling like it had asthma. As they stepped down, Evelyn's heart dropped. Her secondary school friends were already there. Luxury cars filled the compound. Music blasted confidently. Perfume mixed with dust in the harmattan air. One woman stepped out of a tinted car, her designer gown shining under the sun, nails clicking confidently as she walked. She looked at Evelyn, shocked. Evelyn, is this you? Where is your car? Evelyn paused for 1 second, then smiled. Oh, our wagon is with the mechanic, she said smoothly. You know village roads can damage cars easily. The woman nodded politely. But her smile told a different story. And then it happened. Kola lifted their gonna-must-go bag and placed it on his head, trying to help his family. That moment burned into Evelyn's soul. Her husband. Carrying luggage like a house helper. In front of people she once wanted to impress. She wanted the ground to open and swallow her. That night, Evelyn lay awake, staring into darkness. And she made a vow. Never again. Next Christmas, I will pepper them. Not inspire them. Not encourage them. Pepper them. The moment Evelyn noticed the first harmattan dust floating in the air, panic entered her body. She rushed into the living room. Kola, Christmas is around the corner. Kola looked up slowly. Evelyn, it's still October. She waved her hand dismissively. October is practically December. Then she began listing demands like a shopping list. New clothes. New shoes. New human hair. Gold chain. A better arrival this time. I can't go to the village like last year, she said firmly. My mates embarrassed me. Kola rubbed his forehead. Evelyn, we don't have that kind of money. Then look for it, she replied without blinking. She grabbed her phone, scrolling fast. See this wig, 25,000 Nigerian nairas. It's even cheap compared to the one I want. Evelyn, you don't work, Kola said quietly. Where do you want me to get all this money? Her response was sharp. Other husbands are doing it. Why is my own different? Do you want people to laugh at me again? We are struggling, Kola whispered. But Evelyn didn't hear struggle. She heard competition. Every evening became pressure. Kola, have you started looking for money? Tomorrow is December. Remember last year's disgrace. Don't fall my hand. Kola's chest tightened daily. His blood pressure rose like Gary soaking in water. He thought about food. School fees in January. Basic needs. But the moment Evelyn opened her mouth to talk about Christmas fashion, all his sense disappeared. One afternoon, she rushed in excited. I just saw Mary's status. She arrived in a new SUV. Do you want that disgrace again this Christmas? Kola looked at her slowly. We don't even have fuel for the generator, he said quietly. And you're talking about cars. What Evelyn didn't know was this. The pressure she was applying was shaping a decision. A decision that would follow them long after Christmas. A decision that would change their lives in ways she never imagined. By the first week of December, Evelyn's body had started doing giri-giri. She became restless. Pacing the house. Checking her phone every few minutes. Counting days the way prisoners count freedom. One morning, she stood in front of Kola with her hands on her waist, eyes sharp, voice firm. Kola, I need 1.2 million Nigerian nairas for this Christmas. Kola froze. Nigerian naira 1.2 million, for what? So that we won't embarrass ourselves again, she snapped. When will you send it? Kola laughed weakly, not because it was funny, but because his mind refused to accept what his ears had just heard. Let's manage what we have, he said gently. Money is tight. Money is what? Evelyn fired back. Did you forget last year? Did you see how people looked at us? Even my secondary school friends arrived in cars. Mary is already in an SUV. She shoved her phone into his face like evidence in court. Pictures. Decorated compounds. Smiling faces. Kola sighed deeply. I know, but we don't have that budget. Evelyn folded her arms and leaned closer. That's why we have microfinance banks. People borrow every day. Are we better than them? That sentence landed heavily. Kola didn't answer immediately. He sat down that night, staring at the wall while the children slept. His mind was at war. He thought about January. School fees. Rent. Food. He also thought about peace. The daily pressure. The silent fights. The tension hanging in the house like thick smoke. And slowly, painfully. Peace won. Not real peace. But the temporary kind that comes from surrender. The next day, Kola walked into a microfinance bank. He signed papers with shaking hands. Smiled weakly. Collected money he already knew would return to haunt him. When he got home, Evelyn didn't ask questions. She collected everything. Evelyn moved like someone possessed. Boutiques. salons, beauty stores. She bought designer dresses for herself. Senator material for Kola and the children. Raw human hair. Luxury slippers. New nails. Fresh lashes. By the time she returned home, the living room looked like a showroom. Bags everywhere. Shoes lined neatly. Clothes hanging proudly. Kola stood quietly in one corner. He didn't feel happy. He didn't feel proud. He felt empty. On the day of travel, Evelyn ordered a ride. She stepped out wearing a stunning gown, hair laid perfectly, slippers shining under the sun. As they arrived in the village, people gathered. "Evelyn. This your car is fine, oh." She smiled confidently. "Our Lamborghini arrived late, so we borrowed this Benz." The driver glanced at her through the mirror. "Borrowed?" he muttered. But he said nothing. He had been paid. Evelyn didn't stop there. She attended parties, invited or not. Sprayed money that wasn't hers. Laughed louder than everyone else. For the first time, she felt seen. Respected. Envied. Kola watched quietly. Every spray felt like a slap. Every laugh felt borrowed. Every compliment felt dangerous. Then January 1st arrived. Kola dipped his hand into his pocket. Hoping for a miracle. Nothing. Not even 2,000 Nigerian nairas. That night, he called Evelyn aside. "We have to go back to the city," he said quietly. They couldn't afford the return ride they came with. So they left before dawn. Before questions. Before shame could speak. The city welcomed them back with silence. No decorations. No music. Just reality. School resumed. Fees waited. Bills knocked. Kola checked his account. Empty. The loan repayment message arrived. Then another. Then another. Evelyn stood in the living room, staring at the same clothes that once made her proud. For the first time, Christmas was over. But its consequences had just begun. The children asked questions. "Kola, when are we paying school fees?" "Daddy, why are you quiet?" Kola didn't answer. Evelyn finally sat down. The house was silent. No music. No parties. No village audience. Just truth. And in that silence, she realized something terrifying. The village applause had faded. But the debt had followed them home. The first week after New Year felt heavier than any month Kola had ever lived through. Not because of hunger alone. Not because of the empty bank account. But because of the silence that now lived permanently inside the house. The kind of silence that speaks louder than shouting. Every morning, Kola woke up earlier than usual. Not to prepare for work, but to sit on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, calculating figures that never added up. School had resumed. 2 children. 2 sets of fees. Books. Uniforms. Transport. His phone vibrated constantly. Loan repayment reminder. Loan repayment reminder. Loan repayment reminder. Each message felt like a knock on the chest. Evelyn moved differently now. She still dressed well, but her confidence had cracks. Her laughter had disappeared. She spent more time sitting than scrolling. One morning, the school called. "Kola, we haven't received the children's fees." Kola thanked them quietly and hung up. He didn't tell Evelyn immediately. He walked to the bathroom, splashed water on his face, and held the sink tightly, like it was the only thing keeping him standing. Later that day, Evelyn noticed. "Kola, school has resumed," she said carefully. "Yes," he replied. "Have you paid?" "No." She paused. "Why?" Kola looked at her slowly. Because the money is gone. That was the first time reality was spoken aloud. That night, they ate in silence. The children sensed something was wrong. They ate quietly too. When the lights went off, Kola lay awake. For the first time in his marriage, fear sat beside him in bed. A few days later, Evelyn dressed up and left the house. "I'm going out," she said. Kola didn't ask where. Hours passed. She returned in the evening with tired eyes. "Did you find anything?" Kola asked gently. She dropped her bag. No. She had gone to see old friends. People she once tried to impress. They smiled politely. Offered advice. But no help. That night, Evelyn finally broke. "What are we going to do?" she asked, her voice low. Kola took a deep breath. "For years, I carried everything," he said calmly. "I kept quiet because I wanted peace. But peace built on pressure doesn't last." Evelyn looked down. "I just didn't want people to laugh at me," she whispered. Kola nodded. They laughed for a moment. "We're the ones paying for it now." The next day, the children were sent home from school. Evelyn watched them enter the house quietly. No noise. No complaints. Just confusion in their eyes. That sight broke something inside her. She sat on the floor and cried. Not dramatic tears. Quiet ones. The kind that come when excuses finally run out. Weeks passed. Bills stacked. Pressure tightened. One afternoon, Evelyn stood up suddenly. "I'm going to work," she said. Kola looked up. "Work?" he asked, surprised. "Yes. Anything. I can't sit like this." She started small. Helping a neighbor with catering. Assisting at a boutique. Running errands. The money was little, but it was real. For the first time, Evelyn understood something powerful. Respect doesn't come from appearance. It comes from contribution. Slowly, the house changed. They cut down expenses. Sold some luxury items. Paid part of the loan. It wasn't easy. Arguments still happened. Tears still came. But something new had entered their home. Honesty. One evening, Evelyn sat beside Kola. "I'm sorry," she said. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just sincerely. Kola nodded. "I don't want to impress anyone anymore," she continued. "I just want peace." Kola exhaled deeply, like a man who had been holding his breath for years. For the first time since Christmas. Hope knocked softly on their door. Life didn't change overnight for Kola and Evelyn. There was no sudden miracle. No unexpected alert. No rich relative showing up with an envelope. What came instead was time, slow, humbling, honest time. Months passed. The loan repayment still came every week like clockwork. Kola still woke up early, ironed his faded shirts, and went to work. But something inside him had shifted. He was no longer carrying everything alone. Evelyn had changed, not perfectly, not magically, but intentionally. She now woke up early too. Not to scroll. Not to compare. But to move. Some days she helped her neighbor cook for events. Some days she assisted at a small boutique, folding clothes she once dreamed of wearing. Some days she returned home tired, with dust on her slippers and little money in her hand. But that money felt heavier than all the sprayed cash of Christmas. Because it was earned. One evening, as they sat on the floor counting small notes together, Evelyn paused. "Do you know what hurts the most?" she asked quietly. Kola looked at her. "It's not the debt. It's knowing that I embarrassed us by trying too hard not to be embarrassed." Kola said nothing. He didn't need to. The children slowly returned to school. Fees were paid in bits, not in full, but they were paid honestly. The house was quieter now, but not tense. It was the kind of quiet that comes with understanding. One night, power went out. They sat outside under the stars. No generator fuel. No noise. Evelyn leaned against Kola. For years, she said, I thought looking rich would protect me. She paused. But it only exposed us. Kola smiled faintly. Peace, he replied, doesn't come from impressing people who don't pay your bills. The next Christmas came gently. No pressure. No lists. No loans. They didn't go to the village. Instead, they cooked together. Laughed together. Shared one chicken carefully. And for the first time in years, Kola didn't fear December. Evelyn looked around their small living room and smiled. Not because it was perfect. But because it was real. And that Christmas, for the first time, they were rich in peace. Moral of the story. 1. Trying to impress people can quietly destroy the people who truly matter. 2. Borrowed pride always comes with heavy interest. Peace is more valuable than appearance, and honesty lasts longer than applause. Sparkles a home survives not on how it looks outside, but on how strong it stands inside. Some people borrow money to celebrate. Others borrow peace to impress. But remember this. The village will forget the car you arrived in. The clothes will fade. The applause will stop. What remains is the home you return to when the music ends. If this story touched you, share it. Someone out there needs to hear this lesson before their own Christmas becomes a burden. This has been Tales by Lymarh. Where stories don't just entertain. They teach. See you in the next story.